Can you guys hear me? Can everyone hear me? I don't know why. Good evening. I don't know why this is happening, but Todd's share button disappeared off his screen, and we haven't been able to figure out how to get it back. So we've been Googling what to do. And Todd has this really beautiful slideshow that he's created. And so if there's any really tech savvy people on this call and you know how to fix that, I have a share screen, but Todd doesn't have a share screen on his, even though he's supposed to. So if anyone knows how to
Can he,
fix it,
can he send it to you,
can he
Too
send what to
big.
me?
his
Too
presentation?
big.
Oh, too big.
Yeah.
A link?
Um, well, I'd have to put it somewhere to make a link.
Put it in the chat, or is that not going to work?
No.
Yeah, but I would have to create a link to it, so I'd have to put it somewhere. Let me try
And then you'll have to tell me
where it is.
be.
Is he host?
It doesn't matter, it doesn't work.
Yeah, we've gone back and forth with that. But do you want me to make you the host just in case?
Uh,
Or co I make you co-host. Give you all the same permission. Thank you, everybody, for your suggestions. Okay. Missy, can you hear me? Yes. You know how to get Todd's chat button to show up on his screen?
the share button.
His green button, his share button. We don't know how to make it here. I've never had this problem.
Neither have I.
It's the year of the something horse, right? Whatever. Fire horses.
Fire horse.
Fire horse, does that mean you can't share your screen during the year of the fire horse?
Or you'll burn up.
We have plenty to talk about if we can't figure
Mhm. I can talk. But the visuals.
Did you try exiting and then logging back in, Todd?
Hi. Yes, I
Hi,
did.
how are you?
Good.
things. Well, the 6 things we know to do.
Beth, so good to see you.
Have you checked your privacy settings?
You too, Todd.
Oh, I
This
use
is-
Zoom
this-
constantly. I mean, this is like my life is Zoom. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's
Um,
it's uploading. So it says it has 2 minutes.
You click on start share on yours, Todd.
Pardon?
If you go to your settings,
Settings.
your Zoom settings,
Yes.
you see the thing that says start share?
Settings.
Oh, go to meeting, go under meeting.
Where meeting?
Okay, there's Zoom Workplace on the top. And
Yeah.
so it says Zoom Workplace. Next to that, it should say meeting.
Yeah.
Scroll down, it says start share.
Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
You do?
Allow.
Yes.
Somebody's screen.
Do you see
It's
a bunch
there.
of garbage on a screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yay. Okay, yay. This
We
is,
had to do the start button. Such geniuses.
do you see the
Yeah, it's
mag
Meg
sip and saw?
City.
There you are.
All right.
All
Well,
right, I'm so
that's
proud of us.
all right. So we can let everybody else in.
Okay, I think everyone's here.
Okay. Well, there we have it. I can make jewelry better than I can use Zoom. So there's a good thing.
But it tells me someone's in our waiting room and I can't
Yeah,
see.
I can admit,
Okay.
because apparently I'm also, so
Yeah.
if anyone shows up, I will admit them because it shows up as an event for me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So
All
that
right.
means I don't really need to be here, but I'm enjoying the ride.
Okay.
Okay.
So should we start?
Yes, please. I'm sorry for the delay,
Oh,
everybody.
it's no big deal. Um, so my name is Todd Conover. I will be teaching Sculpting the Raven's Skull in June at MAG. And now I can't change. Do I have to do it here? There we go. So this is what you've probably all seen if you've looked into the class. And the beauty of this class is, although we do make a thing, and the thing is this little skull formed piece, these are all the interesting techniques that we will learn. Fold forming, forging, hollow forming, chain making, piercing, and advanced soldering. So as in any of my classes, that's just a smattering of what we will do. And the classes sort of direct themselves as we're in process. The vibe of the room sort of goes in directions that one never knows. So, but this is the plan, and we will definitely cover all of this plus, plus, plus. So these techniques are really a vehicle for this, and this vehicle is
You just muted yourself, Todd.
No, I did actually.
okay.
Thank you.
There we go. So these are wonderful techniques that are vehicles for a lot of different things. So this is just the beginning. These techniques are useful for many things. I don't want to talk about those things tonight. What I would like to talk about is how I think as an artist. Do you see all of my screen? Because I see all of you guys too. Do you see the entire screen? Okay, great. So how do I think as an artist, and how do I come up with the creative ideas or what I think are creative ideas that I come up with? Um, from the very start of my adult life, and even as a child, I was a collector. I always yearned for things and other people's work and pieces of art and pieces that had soul and story and history and meaning and all of that. So my inspiration is my home and my collections of things. I live inside it, my studio, my house, my shelves, the people I keep company with, all of the objects and ideas by other humans. Some are precious, some are strange, many are strange, some are historic, some are nothing. But what they share is that they hold decision and soul, the human touch, evidence of thinking. And tonight I'm going to show you how living with these and looking at these objects teach me to think as an artist. So I call this the company I keep. So for the very first part of this, for a big part of this, I'm going to show you some of the things that I live with, some of my 30 years of collecting, 35 years of collecting, and some of the reasons why I gravitated toward these particular objects and how they inform my work. I don't show you these things to say, look what I have, because that's not the point of them. The point of them is I was drawn to them. Many of them I shouldn't have bought. I mean, there's that. And I'm glad I did. And I don't consider them um, property. I consider myself the steward of these things for the time that I have them, and then they will be passed on, hopefully, to the right people who will steward them for the next period of time. So I broke this down into three different areas. The first one is material honesty, and talking about material with the evidence of human touch, the permission to be imperfect. And many of us need the permission to be imperfect because we are not perfect. We are human. We are not machines. We are not 3D printers. We are humans that make things and have different experiences and have good and bad days. And my hand hurts and this didn't work out really well. And how am I going to cover that up? And that's who we are as makers. And having that permission to be imperfect is really important, especially for someone who's sort of entering into a practice. So anyway, I'm going to show you some pieces, and just so these are the things that I live with. And I'm going to go through these very quickly. So the bulk of my collection is oil painting, prints on paper, watercolor, two-dimensional stuff, lots of ceramics, antique pieces, a lot of metal pieces, furniture. I mean, all sorts of things that I'm drawn to. And I'm not going to, if you're interested in a specific piece, I will tell you who made it and that sort of thing. You can certainly contact me after, or if you want to jump in, please do. That's fine. But these are what I see daily around my house. So I thought about this as I was making, sort of thinking about how I was going to um, present tonight. I thought, like I have a lot of people come for studio visits and come join me. And we never get to the studio because we end up for 3 hours wandering the house and talking about all of this stuff and how it affects my life before. I mean, because honestly, we've all seen a metal studio. They all basically have the same things. Some are prettier than others. But the idea is that, what happens in that studio is really truly based on this. So studio visits in my home tend to rarely get to the studio. So I collect things that are historic from certain time periods. I also collect modern and contemporary, postmodern, modernism, all sorts of things. And what they all have in common is that they were all made by a human being. They're all one-off pieces that were either commissioned or purchased directly from the artist or purchased on the secondary market, typically after the artist is gone. So everything from lighting to textiles. This is a lighting and glass piece, a copper and glass piece and bronze done by Evan Chambers from Pasadena, California. This is a textile piece, and what you're not getting here is scale. This is about 3 inches, 3 feet in diameter, and completely hand tufted. And this textile artist creates eyes, and these are always eyes of people that she loves and admires and are part of her life. And she actually photographs the eye and then copies them. Ceramics. This is a porcelain piece, quite large. Contemporary sculpture. This is an artist that does all reuses and found objects and creates these things. And this was a commissioned piece of one of my dogs. This is Owen. It's another one of that artist's pieces. So materials are very important to me. That's what we are, is we manipulate material in some sort of way. And as an artist, I particularly enjoy taking materials and seeing how far I can push them and how I can create something that is unique with something like, yeah, and we all use silver and copper and gold and things like that that have been used for forever, and how can we as one maker change the way that that looks, and how can we create a surface texture that is unique. So I also collect things that are by people who are not formally trained and actually use their instinct to create really wonderful works of art, because that's what we do as artists. Is I don't care what degree you have in art, when you're in the studio, you are making decisions not based on some class you took, but on what you're feeling and what you're seeing in front of you, and they are happening in the moment. So being confident in decisions, and again, having the permission to make the wrong decision, because why not? Because we learn more from a wrong decision than we do from a right decision. So an anonymous piece, I don't know who made it. I bought it from an antiques dealer in England, but this is a sort of a naive metal mannequin figure with really beautifully, intricately carved features, feet, hands, and head, circa 1940, I'm guessing, from the hairstyle. But what an interesting, cool, soulful piece. This is paper mache using antique ephemera and a glass eye. Sort of a outsider art painting with found objects that are all put together. But look at the composition that this artist created with all of these sort of random pieces of wood that, with all this decoration on them, really pulled it together into a beautiful composition along with his painting. This one I added in here. I actually should have added it into another section, but this is actually ceramic. It looks, of course, like an old rusty Rust-Oleum can, but it is a ceramic piece, as is the fire hydrant or fire extinguisher. It is all ceramic and glaze. The color dripping off is glaze. But soulful pieces. I mean, this person had no fear moving into, I'm going to make a rusted Rust-Oleum can, because why not? I mean, it's not typically what we do as, a trained ceramicist. This is actually a sort of a naive painting that is paint and gold leaf done by an actual pretty well-known modernist sculptor, and this was the starting point for a piece of sculpture. So this was his process. He would create these big, and this is quite large, paintings, and then the sculpture would come later. A piece of folk art of just, I don't know what it is. It's a bunch of varying size square nails that are hammered into a wooden mold of some sort. But really a beautiful composition for nothing. It's two elements. This is a triptych piece, and the beauty of this one is it's dated 1976, and yet it appears very modern today in 2026. So in 1976, this would have been considered very sort of avant-garde in its period. This came in the frame that originally was framed in, and it was in someone's attic or basement or something. It was completely destroyed, and I brought it to the framer who really wanted to put a new frame on it, but we left the original frame. They just sort of shored it up. Um, an interesting piece. I mean, it looks very sort of slick and cool, and you can't really figure out what that is. But this artist creates these pieces out of old bicycle inner tubes. So that's what that is. It's all cut up bicycle inner tubes. And she creates, this is a very small, this is like 8 inches by 8 inches, but she creates these entire wallscapes that are, dozens of feet long by 20 feet tall. This picture, there's a lot of objects in the picture, but specifically pointing to this one. This was done by a close friend of mine, And she did this in the early 2000s. And it
What?
appears to be this very interesting sculptural piece.
You know, he's an amazing jeweler. So he's
But
doing a preview of a class. He's doing
someone's
this.
got to
He's talking about
mute.
using anything that you want. Someone had.
Is this a Zoom?
You're going to have to
thing?
mute yourself, please.
I have it on mute. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, I have it on mute, of course.
No.
The piece, the gold piece in the frame is actually a part of a computer that she had found in the parking lot when she parked to come into work. So it was a colleague of mine who's long retired, and it had been run over a few times, and she thought it had beauty and it was interesting, and she gold leafed it and put it in the frame. And I have cherished this thing for 2 decades now.
Oh, so I put them back.
And a piece of ceramic that this artist likes to take ceramic and make it feel and respond like metal, which is interesting.
Oh, I like that shirt.
They're good for around the house, but you can't wear them out.
Yes, I can.
So
What?
time and wear. So I like to think about time and wear like antique pieces that have original surfaces to them, as a collaborator in the time is the collaborator in the process of that piece becoming what it is today, and that the history embedded in the material and are these objects as future artifacts. So I do collect a lot of antique pieces, early 19th to early 20th century sorts of things. So we'll look at a few of those as well. And then we'll look at my work. So this little sculptural form of a baby face is actually an industrial doll mold. This is what they would shoot the molten plastic into, or whatever the materials are, and then pull it out. So the exterior of it is always a little rough, and it's a little like worn away, because it wasn't about the exterior, it was about the interior. But I love these things. I love the ancient art of blowing glass and creating glass works and adding the right chemicals to these things so that they will change color and do interesting things. I don't know much about glass, but I really do appreciate it. So these are various companies that made these pieces and artists. And some are old, some are modern. I also collect boxes because I think boxes are, they contained parts of the life of the previous owner. And so these boxes range from 1900 to 2010. So they vary. So like this little arts and crafts box is hammered copper and enamel. This is a Swedish box that is actually bone and sterling silver. These are hoof boxes, these three. So these were actually the cherished family horse is Hoof. After they died, this was a very Victorian thing. They would remove the hoof and bring it to a silversmith or a metalsmith and have a box created out of it. More glass. This is a hammered copper, very simply created. It's all riveted construction. It has no solder. This is a German arts and crafts piece. Here's another one. This happens to be an English arts and crafts box from the same period. And I have boxes everywhere in my house. I mean, you're not seeing the house right now, but I mean, they are like lining every surface. And I find them fascinating that they have the potential to carry secrets and understand something about someone else that I don't know. And so to me, they're very interesting in that way. This is a mannequin arm from a life-size drawing mannequin circa 1820 that my friend bought for me at an antique store in Amsterdam, and actually packed that in her suitcase and brought it home. And I mounted it, and it holds the little doll head from about 1880. This sits in my living room on this pedestal, and this is an arts and crafts, so circa 1915 salesman sample. It's not a dollhouse. It wasn't a toy. This is what the salesman would drag around at the beginning, or actually 1915 or 10. We're sort of in the height of the American arts and crafts movement, and this idea of a smaller home coming out of Victorian times when we had these monstrous, huge houses was very novel and very, very appealing to younger people. And so this was a sample that the salesperson would bring around to show you what your house would potentially look like when it was done. And I love this because, the paint is falling off every time I vacuum, which is rare. There's always a little green paint from the roof all over the floor, but I refuse to like clear coat it or anything because time is still addressing what this thing is going to end up being. And this is a little probably Spanish carving, losing a lot of its paint. And this is about 2 feet tall. It's a full figure. And this, I show you this because the time and effort that it took to create this piece, this is a hand painted snuff box. And actually it is right here. So I will grab it so you can see scale.
Okay, wherever it is. Sure.
There it is. It's very small. And what I love about it is we can totally date this piece because of the subject matter. It has a bicycle. A bicycle can date this to about probably 1890, 95. And it is a little paper mache snuff box, which is, a simple material, but someone spent a long time creating the little motif on the front, the little painting on the front. So that intrigues me. These are old letters from a sign that now say BAM, because why not? But I also love that you can see they've been repainted many times, and the surface and the patina is something that you could not actually replicate. It took time to make that happen. And so finally, humor and humanity. If you came to visit me, you would immediately notice that there are lots of eyes looking at you from every wall. And I love paintings. This one happens, it's right behind me. Boom, there it is. I love paintings of people. I don't know any of these people, but I feel like I do. They're part of my family. They live here. I see them every day. So these are ceramics. These are mostly ceramics. Here's another one of those doll molds. The humorous part, this is a guillotine, and it's actually a functioning guillotine with a leaded weight. And it's an arts and crafts, English arts and crafts cigar cutter for the guy that had everything. This is an early 19th century, 1810 painting, and think about that in 1810. And this particular painting, Theodor Cederstrom is his name. His thing was painting clergy doing sort of everyday things. I mean, that was a lot. And this was painted with like a one-haired brush. It looks like a photograph if you're actually looking at it. It's amazing. But he spent all that time you can actually read the newspaper if you get a magnifying glass, to something as simple as a Punch and Judy puppet from about 1920, missing a lot of its paint, still in its own outfit, to a Gothic revival carving. So it's a little crazy when you walk around here because the stuff is all mixed together. So now more contemporary work. So this is an oil painting that has gold leaf, and this is by a very classically trained artist who doesn't take himself very seriously. And this is a series he did called Living Saints or something like that. And what I love is peeking out of the shirt of amazingly like textbook art school painted portrait is Bugs Bunny. I don't know if you can see him there. And this is like a piece of paper, just like with a face drawn on it. Probably his kid did it and he cut it out and slapped it on that painting. And I just love that sort of irreverence. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but there's a lot of faces, and I love humanity, and I love the human face and the all of that. So you see that in my work a lot. And although I don't copy any of these things, I mean I'm inspired by them. I'm not trying to replicate them. You definitely will see their influence on my own work. So how I think. So now we're going to look at some of my pieces. So I look for decisions, both artistic and technical. Like, what am I going to make next? What sort of makes me excited? And technique. Like, how can I take and look at the things that I have around here by masters in some cases and by people who are just making do in others? How can I take the ideas of construction and technique from them and turn it into something that works for me? I look for evidence of the hand, like how can I make something actually look like it was handmade? I actually build that into pieces. If things start to look too perfect, I will start hammering on them and putting them under the torch and melt them a little bit to give them that sort of rawness that I'm always looking for. I look for strangeness that works because I love things that make you go, huh? Like, what the hell is that? And why would someone like who has skill, why would they ever do that? Why wouldn't they like set a big rock and like, put some balls around it? That's not what I mean. And many people do that beautifully. That's just not who I am. I want to make something that does make you question, like, what is the story of this thing? And again, I always look for permission. I'm always validating my choices by looking around at what I've chosen to live with, and it gives me permission to do what I do. So now we're going to look at some of my work. So this is and these vary. I didn't caption them so that I don't have dates or anything on them, but this is a sterling silver cuff. And you can see, the sort of geometry of this piece and the feeling of an old car grill or something came from this. And here's this I give myself permission not to be perfect, and imperfection is beautiful. So in this case, fused metal, scraps of silver that are melted together, and you never know what you're going to get, but oftentimes you're surprised, and oftentimes that surprise will lead you to the next step. And I should probably say that I often don't go to my studio with an actual idea in mind. Maybe like today I'm going to make a fish, because that's what I'm trying to make. I don't know what that fish is going to be. I don't know that fish. I haven't met that fish yet. And by the end of my session or two sessions, I look at what I have and I'm like, oh, hi, like you're the fish. Okay, great. And these things happen sort of organically. I just start playing and I let the process direct me and tell me what is next. So this one turned into, and then oftentimes a story will emerge about the character that I'm building. And this, I forget the entire story of this, but it was some fish that lived in the Thames, and it was today, but his mom was born, she was around in the 80s, and so she was a punk, and he really thought that was great. So he wanted to be like his mom, so he did this whole punk thing. So where did that come from? God knows, but that's what happened. Faces, as you saw, I surround myself with faces, and I also make a lot of faces. And they're all different, and they all are sort of organically happen. There's no great plan to begin with, and that's the beauty of it. It, I'm as surprised at the end as whoever is looking at it after it's done. And sometimes humor happens in the process of building something. So in this particular case, I was my sister who raises and breeds dogs and shows at shows like Westminster, and like she's very all into the dog show world. She asked me for a brooch, and if you knew my sister, I mean, she wouldn't wear anything I made. So she wanted a very conservative sort of Scottish, we're Scottish heritage, and they would do these like quail, taxidermied quail foot things with a feather. So she wanted something along that line to show the dog in. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And so I asked, she also hunts, her dogs are hunting dogs. So as part of their training, they have to go out in the field. She goes out with hunters. She doesn't do the hunting, but the dog goes and retrieves the birds as they shoot them out of the air. Sad, but I'm sorry. Anyway, I asked her, I'm like, send me some pheasant feet and I will cast one in silver and I'll make you a beautiful brooch. This is what I made. She about died. She's like, I don't want that. But I made it because this is what happened. I had a very different plan for her, which I did ultimately make, with this beautiful set citrine and a couple of pear oaks. That's her birthstone. And it was very sort of very conservative. But in the process of casting this one of its nails didn't cast. I do sand casting. And instead of like soldering on wire and just recarving and sculpting a nail, I said, I'm going to make it a prosthetic. So I actually carved a chopstick into a nail and I pinned it on there with a pearl, painted it red. And then I had a whole story about how the thing lost its nail. And then I said, well, I'm not going to put the beautiful citrine at the top now. I'm going to put an eyeball. And I ended up making like several of these. So, and that all happened because the magic is in the process. The thing didn't work to begin with, and it became better as a result, in my mind. Another interesting face. You may also start to realize I love eyes, and these eyes are actually antique eyes, and they are old dead stock from doll manufacturing. Most of them come from France, from the 19th century doll manufacturers, and they would actually have handmade eyes. These are glass, solid glass eyes, and they're all different. And I buy them whenever I can find them, and I use them in my work quite often. So nature is also a big theme of my work. Here's another. And again, obvious, I did not have a sketch of this before I started. This is just how it ended. And I love the result. Again, I was surprised. I was like, ooh, who are you? You're exciting. And I love the eye. And this one, the eye is a little bit like wonked. It like bled in the process of making it in 1900. And I honored that. Another face, this time in profile. Sometimes I'll do a traditional form, and this traditional form happens to be a heart. But I don't just like make a heart. It's always altered and modified in some other way. Here I was playing with negative space and positive space, and I was playing. I taught a class in at the Loft Jewelry Studio in Anaheim, and I was gifted one of those crimping machines that will like make corrugated metal. I don't have like a real one, but this was like a little one that I think was designed to squeeze the last bit of paint from an artist's paint tube. Oh my God, I love that thing. I'm always like crimping stuff, and this was one of the pieces that I crimped from that. So um, there we have that. So maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was on this sort of thing where I wanted to add color to my work without using a traditional means to do so. So I didn't want to use like faceted stones, and I didn't, enameling is not my thing. I have a kiln, I have enamel, but it's frustrating and it doesn't make me happy, so I don't do it. And I discovered, I went to an antique store and I found a bunch of old like tins that food and medicine and spark plugs and things like that would come in. And I was like, wow, these have amazing graphics on them and they have really cool color that has survived. And I started using them. So I did a whole series of these things years ago. And recently during the the silver crisis that we all have experienced. The pricing of silver has gone crazy. I thought, let's go back to that. And I've done a whole bunch of different, and I've approached it in a very different way this time. But I've really been enjoying, and you're going to see a few examples of that. So that's what that is. Those are all 19th and 20th century tins that have been cut up and then riveted back together in a little composition in these little boxes, and these spin. Here's another one. So I did a whole bunch of animals using this stuff, and I love the sort of beat up, and I love the using rivets and the text that shows up and the areas where the paint is missing actually. So I patina these pieces. So I create like a cabochon of the material that's all riveted down to a shape that will fit into the bezel that's cut out of copper. And I will brush black max on this stuff, and it takes all of the shiny silver parts that are exposed because paints have scraped off or fallen off or whatever, and sort of dulls them down a little bit. And I really like the way that looks versus the shiny um, tin that's from underneath. Here's another one. So this one was all car related. And I found, again, at my local antique store that someone had a whole bunch of 1950s Matchbox cars that were all losing their paint. They were sort of beat up. And I thought, ooh, this would be fun to like incorporate into my pieces. Well, I got the thing home and I realized it's way too thick, deep to incorporate as an object on like a brooch because it would be so heavy. So I actually sliced this thing using there's zinc, die-cast zinc, slice this thing kind of down the middle with a jeweler's saw, and then bezel set, which also meant that I was cutting through the axles and all the wheels fell off, and I had to rebuild the car and like it's all. But I put it all back together and mounted it. It's actually sitting in a bezel, and then the where the wheels are, there's a post that holds the wheel in place that goes straight through all of the layers into the back to hold everything in place. And then all of these were auto fuses and sort of auto related tins. I also like to do animals, mostly dog. I do a lot of dogs, but all sorts of animals. Some realistic, some animated, like this guy. Here's another example of the tin lithography. Another example of tin lithography, the Raven. And I've been lately, I buy all my materials from Rio, which a lot of us do. And I don't love sheet silver that comes in the beautiful sheet because I'm just going to beat it up and hammer on it and melt it and do all sorts of things to it anyway. And I have scrap, a lot of scrap down in my studio. And so I've been enjoying starting my day every day by melting down a bunch of scrap and re-rolling it out into sheet. And I find that the textures that I get on that and the patina that it will hold are so much different than the processed, super processed, perfectly whatever gauge sheet that I get from Rio is. So a lot of these pieces these are more current pieces. A lot of them have started their life as literally a pile of scrap that has been melted down and re-rolled out. This one as well, not the brass, but all the silver part. Another fun face. Here I'm playing with negative space. You see the eye is cut out. It's like very flat. Sometimes they're sort of dimensional and reposed. Sometimes they're intentionally left pretty flat. Again, this shard basically in the middle of this cuff is a rolled out sheet of recycled sterling silver, and then the frame is built to support the whole thing.
Oh my God.
Bulldog. Or no, I don't know what kind of dog it is. Cute dog. But the collars were fun. I love making little buckles and like, you know, I spend a lot of time on the dumbest things, but it makes me happy. Recently, I was trolling around on Etsy and someone was selling like 200 vintage light bulbs that they got in an estate sale, all in a box, all these little compartments. I'm like, oh, I have to have these. I don't know why I need them, but I have to have them. And so I bought them all, and this is the first thing that has happened with the light bulbs. So you can set them just like, you know, a tube set stone. And um, they're pretty durable. I mean, you can knock those things. They're like flashlight batteries. They're pretty durable. So I'm not really worried about them breaking. I mean, this one went off to its new home. I think it's in Santa Clarita is where it went, I think. So we'll see. I'm sure I'll hear. So the dogs. So you know, some of them are sort of comical and funny, and some of them are more serious, like this guy. So here I've combined a couple of techniques. So the very flat sort of pieced together, and these are all pieced together with tiny little pieces of silver wire on the back that solder the two parts together. And then some areas are intentionally like raised up. So the nose is actually formed in repoussé, and the mouth is actually set up on a little plinth that holds it out a little bit. So you get some interesting dimension. And then some days I don't want to make anything that is recognizable as it is a fill in the blank. Some days I like to just play with composition and play with form and play with material and see what happens. And this is one of those days here. I mean, this was I didn't start off thinking I was making this piece, but this is what the piece ended up. And it actually I really enjoyed it. So I was playing with this idea of what happens if I took a piece of heavy gauge wire and I coiled around it with a thinner gauge wire, and then I run it all through my square wire mill. Well, that's what happens right there. And how interesting is that? And then I tapered it. So I taper wire, like you can see how thick it is down here and how thin it is up in the coil. I actually taper the wire using the rolling mill. So go half and then come back and then go a quarter and come back, and you can taper beautiful. And then you have to go to the, you know, the anvil with a hammer and sort of smooth out those transitions between the two sizes. But it works really well. And that's what was happening here. Another dog. Another dog. Using that same technique that I was playing with the faces. Trying to create, you know, a foreground and a background, but yet it's completely flat. I thought that was an interesting concept. And, you know, it looks as though the dog's nose is coming out at you, but it's actually flat as can be. Here's another animal piece that I did using the tin lithography. Stink bug, because why not? And this is a very recent piece. So this came about because I was teaching a workshop with a colleague of mine at the university. And it was like a 4-session workshop. And it was, you know, the theme of the workshop was as creative people, how do we write research proposals and questions and have it be as serious as, you know, the molecular biology student is writing. So you know, these students came in, and part of that was doing a lot of research prior to actually writing the questions and proposing a research project. And so we have a very large collection of historic garments, you know, antique clothes, basically. In our school, we have about 11,000 pieces that range from the 18th century to today. And a lot of them are, you know, very high quality, beautiful designer pieces of the last 100 years. But, you know, things that were saved. And so it's a museum of sorts, and it's a holding. But our students have access to it, and they can come in and they can request. There's a database, and they're like, I'm all about the 1920s, and they can look at the 1920s pieces. So we had these students looking at a specific designer. Her name was Bonnie Cashin, and she was very prevalent in the 70s. And looking at her construction and her materials and talking about how materials support clothing, and clothing is sort of based upon this idea of like architectural tectonics. And so it's this whole thing. Anyway, as part of the workshop, the students were, because the colleague of mine is a professional weaver, she's a fiber artist, they were working on the loom and creating these really beautiful things, like literally like naive as could be. They'd sit at the loom and instantly create these amazing things because it's an intuitive process. I mean, cloth, what is more human than cloth? And so I was thinking about all this, and I thought I'm going to just crudely weave together some metal and just fuse it under heat and see what happens. And this is what happened. Another piece using the tin. This is a very recent piece. Another, sort of life form, just lobster. Here's another one of those experiments. Again, the same. You see the interesting texture you get when you wrap one gauge wire with another and run it through the mill. You get things that look like this. And each side of this, because I have a square wire mill, and each side of that square, it has a different texture and a different pattern to it. So it's really fun to play with that. I do love, as you can see, because I haven't really talked about it, but I love found things and like weird little elements that can go in. And this was a little doll head that's been sitting on my bench for the last 10 years, just hanging out in a dish with a bunch of other junk. And one day it was his day. It was like, okay, today's your day. And this is what happened. So you see this, the evidence of the hand is always prevalent, and this idea of material as a starting point to experiment with surface is always a prevalent thing for me. I mean,
Wow.
it is very rare that I will use a piece of silver straight from the sheet and not do anything to it. Like really rare. And this was the other day. So this ear form, which I put this here to remind us to listen to our guts, because they always, that your gut will always tell you, that's not happening. Our brain will try to override the gut at every chance it will get, but the gut is usually correct, especially when it comes to sort of creative process. The gut is usually right. And then finally, because I put this presentation together yesterday, I was pulling pictures and thinking about it. And so yesterday I was at school teaching my classes, and I was thinking about, okay, what are we going to do? And this morning when I got up, she happened, because obviously I was looking at all these faces and I haven't done faces in so long. So I'm like, I have to make a face. So her name is Maeve, and I didn't know who she was going to be until the end. And I was like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. And there she is. So that's what I have for you. I think we have some time. We don't really, but we started 15 minutes late. So I'm certainly willing to spend a few minutes and answer any questions you may have. I'm going to stop sharing. Voila. So please ask away.
Just
Who
unmute.
who dusts all of your beautiful
Hi.
collectibles?
Who does what collectibles? Like all my stuff?
Dusts. Who dusts them?
Oh, dusts. Oh, that would be me. So we have a big house. So we have it's several floors, 3 floors. And Gary, my husband, is in charge of floor 2, because he's like, I am not going near any of that stuff. So that's me.
Beautiful.
Hence the reason why I didn't really want to wander around with a phone and show you this stuff.
It's
Because it
beautiful.
hasn't been dusted in a minute.
It
What
all
metal?
looks very, very interesting. I would love to tour around that and just look at all that stuff.
Yeah, I just picked like, a few things to show you tonight. I mean, it is a lifetime of collecting.
Definitely
So
I have
fun
one
to
of those
step into
too.
your world. But
in the beginning of my, so I'll tell you a little very briefly. Um, I, I teach fashion design. I don't teach metals or jewelry. I've been teaching fashion design at Syracuse University for this is my 31st year.
Oh my
And
God.
I never touched a piece of metal until 2010. And the only reason I took a class is because A, I get remitted tuition, meaning I can take a class at the university because, I'm a tenured faculty for basically free. And I had never taken any classes up to that point. And I, one of my big loves, and I didn't really show you much of it, is arts and crafts metalwork. And I was really interested, and primarily just to become a better collector, I thought, ooh, I should take a class and understand a little bit about how this stuff is made. Well, here I am. I couldn't stop. I just loved it so much. I was like, wait, this is what I've been needing all my life. And so I took every class ultimately. So based on because I'm a collector, that's how I started actually making anything in metal. And at first, and this is a funny thing too, when I first started in metal, all of my teachers who are my colleagues in the art school were like, Todd, you have to make jewelry, make jewelry, make jewelry. And I insisted that I would never make a piece of jewelry as long as I live because I'm so sick of dealing with the body and clothes and fit and all the stuff that I've dealt with my entire life of being in fashion. And I've also been in the fashion industry, and it's always about like the fit of something. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with the fit anymore. So I made lamps and bowls and boxes and you name it, I made it, but it was never jewelry. Then I was asked to create a few pieces of jewelry for a museum exhibition on arts and crafts, furniture, standing with early 20th century clothes to sort of see them together because these rooms are very like heavy and stark and wooden and arts and crafts is not like light and delicate, but you pair it with clothes from women's clothes from like 1905 to 1915. It's really an interesting comparison and contrast. Anyway, I made the few pieces. Um, I was asked to then the people at the museum gallery asked, please make a few pieces for their gallery store. So I made, and they all sold, and no one like bitched about the fit. I was like, oh my God, jewelry's great because no one really cares. So anyway, so I've been making jewelry ever since.
Todd, there's a few questions in the chat. Do
Okay. Can you just ask where, how do I get there?
um,
Oh,
some
chat. I got it. Do you sketch it all before you begin a piece? Wait, let's go to the top. Yes. Could you export the pre? No. What is the scale of most of your pieces that you have shown us? Like the jewelry pieces, I'm assuming. Um, so my pieces tend to be rather large. They're not teeny tiny pieces. So I probably have something right here. Let me grab a few. So can you see? Here's the Maeve piece, she's going to Mexico tomorrow. So this is the scale of this piece. So this is a typical brooch size for me. It's bigger than most, but not huge. Here's a little skull piece, and it's also, you can see it in comparison to my hand.
the back, how you did the pearls on that, please.
Sure. So these are all post set. So the post is actually soldered from the front. It's balled wire. You can see the little ball trim around it. It's actually not trim. It's actually the end of the post There's a drill. It fell through the pole, was soldered in the front, and then bent back
Mhm.
to set the pearl on it.
And then your fascination with pearls, you use them a lot.
I use them a lot. I have a fascination with pearls. I don't know why. I just love them. They're all unique. They're all different. Here's another piece. It's a little skeletal foot in a shoe with some pearls. Yeah, I really do like pearls. I think they add a really interesting contrast to metal. They add an interesting sort of mind shift from something bizarre like a skull with pearls. It's like leather and lace. It's like that sort of thing. And so I like that contrast. Okay, there was a what metals are you using for the faces other than the silver? So I use silver, copper, and brass, and sometimes bronze. So those would be the four metals that would be in the faces. Do you sketch? Yes. I sketch. I don't know that I'm sketching the piece that I'm making, but I sketch constantly. And I don't sketch full pieces. I sketch ideas, connections, a line that connects with something else, bits and scraps. And I sketch in yellow legal pads, those small ones that flip this way, and they're all over the house. Is there one right here, except for where I'm sitting right now? So I do, and I have stacks of them that are filled up with drawings. And sometimes when I go to my studio, I mean, let's face it, uh, some days I go to my studio and I stand there and I'm like, I have nothing. Like there is nothing going on. And I will grab those notebooks and I'll start to look through them and go, "Ooh, that was a great idea." I mean, I have so many ideas that I forget in like 20 minutes that I had the idea 20 minutes ago. So if I sketch it out, then it sort of jogs my memory. Would they mean anything to other people? Probably not, because they're really incomplete rambles, basically. Um, do I put words in my sketches as in notes to yourself? Yeah, I write notes. Well, I can dig through which these things are everywhere, and there's like passwords and all sorts of things. Like, oh God, I shouldn't have this stuff in here. But yes, I do write little notes to myself. Sometimes it's usually that means the sketch has progressed to something that potentially is going to happen. Then I'm starting to think about actual materials or scale or something. So I'll add notes to them.
Jane was asking about the gauge of the metal,
Oh,
approximately around the glass eyes.
on uh, I don't see that one. Ask me that again.
For the bezels around the glass eyes.
It all depends. So I make my own bezel wire for the most, but I do use a lot of that castellated bezel wire, which is like they're like prongs basically. And I love that stuff because you can set them all and they work really well around like a mabe pearl that has varying things going on versus trying to get a solid bezel like pushed in further and less. And so I like it for that. Um, I don't know what gauge that is. I buy it from some guy that makes it. But typically, I make my own bezel wire by rolling wire out in the rolling mill flat and to the width that I want it to be. So the gauge, I'm not really so concerned about the gauge of the bezel as I am the width of the bezel because I need a specific width. So you'll notice that sometimes I'll use a really thick bezel and I don't try to push it around whatever I'm pushing it around because those eyes are, they are glass. So I will cut the tabs and then tab it in like the castellated bezel wire, but I do much less of them, like, northeast, south, and west, and sometimes a couple more, and that's it. So I'm sorry I can't answer that specifically because it varies so greatly per thing. And it depends on what stone I'm setting, and it really has a lot to do with a lot of different things. But what I think you should take out of that is if you have a rolling mill, it's an easy thing to make, and once you start making it, you never stop. The one thing you have to remember, though, is if you roll out, round wire into flat bezel, before you try to shape it around a stone and get it to match a stone, you absolutely have to anneal it because it's work hard. Other thoughts?
Do you want to say anything about
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Do I
you.
want to say anything about?
the Raven, as in the workshop?
Okay, so we can talk. So a lot of what we talked about is going to happen in the Raven. So we are going to learn fold forming. So, and very simple fold forming. I mean, fold forming, sometimes I fold form just to create line. It's not even to create uh, dimension. It is to create a solid line that doesn't go away. So we will be fold forming. We will be forming, simple forming, sinking basically. So we're sinking from the back using dapping tools and a stump or a sandbag or something that doesn't hold the metal, and we'll allow it to sink. And then we are going to hammer that from the surface to create that, the human touch, the evidence of the hand. Is it necessary to hammer it? Not in this case, it isn't, but I love to get that texture going. And then we're going to encase the whole thing with the back so that we'll be hollow forming. And we'll be making forged chain, so forged link and jump ring chain that we'll lock together. And we'll talk about bales and how to apply a bale to a piece. We can also make it convertible. A lot of you may have noticed that I make a lot of brooches because I think they're like little art forms. It's like wearing like something that I have hanging on my wall, like to work, but it's small, and I love that. And a lot of them that I make are both. It has the brooch mechanism on the back as well as a bale, so you could put it on a cord or a chain or something. So we will be doing all of that in class.
Jason's asking what are the dates for the class and the price. Jason, can you look at Metal Arts Guild of Georgia? And it's a 4-day. I can look up the date.
Yeah, I'll have it in front of me.
It's in June.
June.
I'll get it.
That's all I know.
We're not married to the calendar yet.
Right.
Okay. Closer. It's 4 days. Did I already say that?
Yeah, here I have it. It's right here. It is June 25th through the 28th.
Mhm. And the price is, I think it's $780, but I didn't get that far yet. And then the price for a virtual class is $20 a day less. But I can't find it. What's 180 times 4? That's how much the class costs.
That's too hard.
I know I like 720.
Plenty.
720. I think that's how much it is.
And I showed some examples of the piece. And I think on Meg's website, there's a copper example and a silver example. The one I showed happened to be silver, but it can be made out of anything. It could be gold, but it's doubtful we'll be doing that at $5,000 an ounce. The bale would cost $400.
So if someone wants to ask you a question or get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
My email address. So I will give it to you if you are interested. It's TD Conover, Conover. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's TD Conove, no R, CONOVE at syr.edu. So that's the best way of getting a hold of me, and I will see your message and answer you right away.
We would be thrilled for you guys to join us. We have
Absolutely.
space both in the virtual and in the class setting. And it's a big studio, holds 12 people, and it's well equipped. And
For those of you who have not been to MAG, this will be my second time there. And, I was at first, I was like, I don't know anything about this place. I can't wait to go back.
you
It's
haven't
an
been to the new?
exciting, and it's a new place. It's not so much the place, it's the people and the vibe. And it's just it's a nice vibe. And it's 4 days. So we can do a lot in 4 days. A lot. So the last class I did was only 3 days, and we ended up doing several different techniques that weren't part of the class to begin with, that sort of worked their way in, and it was great.
You'll definitely learn a lot and have fun.
Yes,
You might sweat a little. It'll be hot out,
it's okay.
but our air conditioner works. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. And Todd, that was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Now I don't have to come visit you.
Thank you. Good to see you all.
Good to see you. Nice seeing.
Thank you.
I saw Gail somewhere. Hi, Gail.
Thank you.
I don't know. She probably left. Okay. Bye.
Bye now. Good to see you, Todd.
Good to see you. Look at the kitty.
Bye,
Good
love.
night.
Bye, Todd. See you at
Bye.
the
Hi,
loft.
Gail. See you when?
At the loft.
I see you at the loft. I
Yeah,
can't wait.
yeah. Okay, me too.
Have a good day.
Bye, Gail.
Bye, Jeanette. Good to see you.
Good to see you, sweetie.
All right, I'm going to shut down this party.
Thank you.
You guys. And if questions, just let me know at Mag. Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.